Hey everyone, we are going to be diving into something pretty special today. Um, our friend Mukul just released his book, You Will Be Forgotten. And let me tell you, we have been waiting for this one for a long time.
Yeah,
It's available on Amazon right now.
it
You
is.
should really check it out.
Oh, it's empty and
It's wild
amazing.
how he tackles this, fear that we all have.
It's totally of
You
being
know?
forgotten. It's like,
And Mukul and I have had so many late night conversations about this.
I know.
And to see him put it all together in this book is amazing.
Yeah,
He's really hit on something powerful.
absolutely.
Yeah, what do you say?
The book is more than just a self-help guide.
Okay.
It challenges our assumptions about success and legacy and really pushes us to rethink what truly matters.
I'm hooked already.
Yeah.
So those who haven't had the chance to devour the book yet,
Yeah.
why is this book so important? What makes it stand out in a sea of self-help books?
I think it's like he's giving us permission to let go of that constant need to achieve, to be remembered, to control the narrative.
Right.
He argues that true fulfillment comes from mastering our craft in the present moment,
Oh, that makes so much sense.
not from chasing some elusive future legacy.
So who do you think would benefit most from reading You Will Be Forgotten?
Honestly, I think it's for anyone who feels that pressure to achieve,
Yeah.
to make a mark on the world, entrepreneurs, artists, leaders,
Right.
anyone who feels that weight of expectation on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And even if you're not in one of those like high pressure roles, if you're simply someone who wants to live a more fulfilling and impactful life,
Yeah.
this book is for you.
I love that.
It's a reminder to focus on the now,
Yeah.
on what we can create and experience in this very moment.
It's not just about external achievement.
Yes.
It's about cultivating a deeper sense of purpose and meaning in our lives.
Totally.
It sounds like this book is packed with insightful stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Can you break down some of the key mindset shifts that readers can expect to gain?
Absolutely. One of the biggest takeaways is the idea of the illusion of legacy.
Okay.
Mukul uses the example of Alexander the Great, this legendary conqueror.
Right.
But what do most people really remember about him today? A few bullet points in a history book.
It's kind of humbling, isn't it?
Totally.
No matter how big we think we are,
Yeah,
time has a way of putting things into perspective.
exactly. And that leads to the second key shift,
Okay.
the trap of control.
Mm.
We think we can control how we'll be remembered, but ultimately it's an illusion.
Right.
Mukul argues that this need for control can actually sabotage our success because it keeps us from taking risks and truly expressing ourselves.
So letting go of control is actually a way to gain more power.
That's the paradox. And that's where the third key takeaway comes in.
Okay.
The power of vanishing.
All right.
Mukul suggests that sometimes stepping back from the spotlight can actually amplify our impact.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
It is.
Can you give us an example from the book of someone who embraced this power of vanishing?
Sure, Mukul talks about Chanakya. This brilliant strategist and advisor in ancient India. He was instrumental in building an empire.
Wow.
But then he chose to step away from power and vanish into obscurity.
Really?
His impact, however, continued to be felt long after he was gone.
So by detaching from the need for recognition,
Yeah.
he actually created a more lasting legacy.
Exactly.
It's like planting a seed and letting it grow on its own.
Yeah,
Without needing to constantly hover over it.
totally. And that leads to the fourth key shift,
Okay.
presence over permanence.
Okay.
Mukul argues that true fulfillment comes from mastering our craft in the present moment,
Right.
not from obsessing over how we'll be remembered in the future.
So it's about pouring our energy into doing our best work right now, not for future accolades, but for the pure joy and satisfaction of the process itself.
Precisely. And that ties into the fifth and final key takeaway,
Okay.
mastery without attachment.
Okay.
This is where Mukul dives into the concept of nishkama karma from the Bhagavad Gita, which is all about acting without being attached to the results.
I'm fascinated by this concept of nishkama karma.
It's a powerful one.
It seems like a radical idea
Yeah,
in a world that's so focused on outcomes.
it is.
How does Mukul connect this ancient wisdom to our modern lives?
He uses the example of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam,
Okay.
the former president of India.
Yeah.
Dr. Kalam was a brilliant scientist and engineer, but he never sought fame or recognition. He was simply driven by a deep passion for his work and a desire to serve his country.
Right.
And in doing so, he achieved extraordinary things and left behind an incredible legacy.
It's like he was embodying that idea of nishkama karma.
Yeah,
acting without attachment to the fruits of his labor.
totally.
It makes you wonder,
It does.
what could we achieve if we weren't so obsessed with external validation?
That's exactly the question Mukul wants us to ask ourselves.
This is already blowing my mind. There's so much to think about here.
I know, right?
And we're just getting started.
We are
Mukul has packed so much wisdom into this book.
so much.
We've only just scratched the surface.
The surface.
Okay, listeners, stay tuned because we're about to delve even deeper into the wisdom of You Will Be Forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be right back.
All right. Welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into You Will Be Forgotten, and I'm really excited to unpack some of the more practical aspects of the book.
Me too. It's one thing to talk about letting go of control and embracing the present moment, but how do we actually do that? Especially in a world that's constantly bombarding us with messages about achievement and recognition.
Well, Mukul doesn't advocate for becoming hermits or abandoning all ambition. It's more about finding that balance between striving for excellence and detaching from the need for constant approval. He gives some great examples in the book of people who've done just that.
You know, the example of Steve Jobs being ousted from Apple always comes to mind. I mean, talk about a public setback, to be kicked out of the company he built. But he didn't let that defeat define him. He went on to create NXT and Pixar, and eventually made a triumphant return to Apple, leading them to even greater heights.
It's a perfect example of how letting go of control can actually lead to greater success instead of getting bogged down by the need to prove himself. Jobs channeled his energy into what he did best, innovating and creating.
It's a powerful reminder that setbacks don't have to be the end of the story. They can be the catalyst for even greater achievements if we approach them with the right mindset.
Absolutely. Another powerful concept Mukul explores is the idea of strategic invisibility. You might be thinking, wait, how can disappearing be a good thing? But Mukul makes a compelling case for the power of stepping back from the limelight.
I was thinking the same thing. This goes against everything we're taught about self-promotion in today's world.
Right. But think about it this way. When you're constantly striving to be seen, to be recognized, you become dependent on that external validation. And that can be exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling. Mukul argues that sometimes the most impactful work happens behind the scenes, away from the noise and distraction of the spotlight.
So it's about focusing on the work itself, letting it speak for itself rather than getting caught up in the hype and self-promotion.
Exactly. Mukul uses the example of Lord Rama from the Ramayana after ruling for years. Lord Rama decides to step down from his throne and vanish into the forest. Now, you might think this is a defeat, but Mukul presents it as a strategic move. It's about building something that can thrive without your constant presence, a legacy that's not dependent on your personal fame.
That's a really interesting perspective. It's
Yeah.
like by stepping away, he actually ensured the longevity of his ideals and values. His impact continued to resonate even without him being physically present.
That's the beauty of strategic invisibility. It's not about becoming irrelevant. It's about creating something that transcends your individual presence, and it allows you to focus on mastery, on deepening your skills and knowledge without the pressure of constant scrutiny.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. Mukul weaves so many insightful examples into his arguments. One of the things that really resonated with me was his discussion of Indian philosophy and how it offers a unique perspective on these timeless truths.
Yes, he beautifully weaves in concepts like nishkama karma from the Bhagavad Gita, acting without attachment to the results.
Right, we talked about that earlier. It's about finding joy in the process itself, not just chasing the outcome.
Exactly. And he also explores the idea of pratika, which refers to symbols that carry deep meaning. He connects this concept to building a legacy that's not just about longevity, but about creating something unique and valuable that resonates on a deeper level.
So instead of chasing fleeting fame, we should focus on building something that truly matters, something that embodies our values and makes a real difference in the world.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the core message of the book, Letting Go of Control. Mukul argues that the more we try to control our legacy, the more we limit our potential. But when we surrender to the flow of life, when we trust that true value will eventually be recognized, that's when we unlock our greatest creative power.
It's like we're releasing that tight grip on the steering wheel and trusting that life will guide us where we need to go. But what about that fear of being forgotten? It's pretty primal fear, wouldn't you say?
Mukul acknowledges that fear. He doesn't dismiss it, but he challenges us to reframe our perspective. He argues that true fulfillment doesn't come from being remembered by the masses. It comes from living a life that's meaningful to us, a life that aligns with our values and passions.
So it's not about achieving immortality through fame or recognition, but about finding a deeper sense of purpose and meaning in our everyday lives.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus from external validation to internal satisfaction. It's about creating a legacy that's not about being remembered, but about living a life that's truly worth remembering.
Wow, that's powerful. Mukul's book is like a roadmap to a more fulfilling and impactful life. But this is a lot to take.
Yeah.
And what are some practical steps we can take to actually implement these ideas in our own lives?
That's a great question. And Mukul doesn't leave us hanging. He offers some very specific tools and strategies for cultivating this new way of thinking and being.
So we're back and like ready to unpack some practical steps,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For implementing Mukul's ideas in
Yeah.
our lives.
Yeah.
It's all well and good to talk about letting go of control and embracing the present moment.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that in the midst of our busy, achievement-oriented lives?
Yeah. Well, Mukul provides some really concrete strategies in his book.
Right.
And I think one of the most powerful is redefining our understanding of power.
Redefining power. What do you mean by that?
I think we often associate power
Yeah.
with control.
Right.
Controlling our circumstances, controlling our image,
Right.
controlling how others perceive us. But Mukul argues that this kind of power is ultimately fragile because it's based on external factors that are constantly shifting.
So it's like building a house on sand.
Totally.
It might look stable for a while, but it's not built on a solid foundation.
Exactly. True power, according to Mukul, comes from within.
Okay.
It's about developing a deep sense of self-trust,
Yeah.
a belief in our ability to navigate the ups and downs of life without needing to control everything.
It sounds like a shift from external validation to internal strength.
Precisely. And that leads to the next step,
Okay.
replacing rigidity with adaptability.
Hmm.
We often get so caught up in our plans and our expectations of how things should be
Right.
that we become inflexible.
Yeah.
We resist change, and when things don't go according to plan, we feel like we failed.
It's like clinging to a tree in a hurricane.
Totally.
You might hold on for a while, but eventually you're going to get swept away.
Exactly. Mukul encourages us to become more like bamboo, strong and resilient, but also flexible enough to bend with the wind.
I like that.
It's about learning to adapt to changing circumstances,
Okay.
to adjust our sails as needed, and to see challenges as opportunities for growth.
So it's not about giving up on our goals, but about being open to different paths for achieving them.
Exactly. It's about detaching from a specific outcome and focusing on the journey itself.
Oh, that's good.
And that brings us to the next step,
Okay.
releasing the need for external validation.
Yeah.
This is a theme we've touched on throughout our discussion,
We have.
but it's worth emphasizing again because it's so crucial.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Letting go of control, embracing adaptability,
Yeah.
releasing the need for external validation.
Yeah.
It's all about shifting our focus inward,
Yeah.
finding strength and stability within ourselves.
Exactly. Mukul argues that the more we rely on others to define our worth,
Right.
the more fragile we become.
Yeah.
We give away our power, our sense of self to external forces that are ultimately beyond our control.
Yeah.
But when we find validation within ourselves,
Yeah.
when our sense of self-worth is rooted in our own values and beliefs, that's when true freedom emerges.
I've been thinking about this concept
Yeah.
of you will be forgotten. And it's a bit unsettling at first.
Yeah.
But the more we dive into Mukul's ideas,
Yeah.
the more I'm realizing it's not about nihilism or giving up on making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
It's about shifting our perspective on what truly matters.
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Mukul is not saying that we should abandon all ambition or stop striving for excellence.
Right.
He's simply challenging us to redefine success,
Wow.
to move beyond the pursuit of fleeting fame and recognition, and focus on creating a life that's rich in meaning and purpose.
Right.
A life that's aligned with our values and passions.
And a life that makes a positive impact on the world, even if that impact isn't widely recognized or celebrated.
Exactly. Mukul's book is a call to action, an invitation to step into our authentic selves and create a legacy that's not about being remembered, but about living a life that's truly worth remembering.
Oh, that was beautiful.
It's good stuff.
It's been an incredible journey exploring these ideas with you.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Mukul's book is truly thought-provoking, and I know I'll be revisiting it again and again.
Me too.
Listeners, if you're ready to challenge your assumptions about success, legacy, and impact, if you're ready to discover a new kind of power, the power that comes from letting go, then grab a copy of You Will Be Forgotten.
Yeah.
You won't regret it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you'll join us again next time for another fascinating exploration of ideas that matter.